Gon Freecs is one of the most well-known and well-recognized characters in all of anime and manga, and whether you've watched Hunter x Hunter or not, then you know that the general consensus around his character leading up to the climax of the Chimera Ant arc is one of the most well-known arcs in anime and manga in general, and probably one of the most well-loved arcs in the entirety of anime and manga for a good reason. Gon Freecs was written initially as a carefree child with untapped potential for seemingly incredible growth, and Togashi throughout the series slowly hinted and showed cracks in Gon's personality, cracks that would eventually expose themselves more and more in Gon's character as he is thrust into the world that is cruel, unyielding, and unforgiving, and it was more than ready to chew him up and spit him out. And Gon's response to this world is one of pure selfish rage. Gon slowly developed from a character whose sweet and pure innocence would put a smile on literally anyone's face, and he slowly developed into something that would go on to terrify literally anyone that would dare make the mistake of standing in his way. His self-sacrificial nature and selfish desire to constantly grow stronger in search of his father led him on a path that would eventually, in one of the most recognized fits of rage in anime and manga, would take everything from him. Rarely is a character of Gon's caliber shown in, at least shonen anyway, and there aren't many that I can think of off the top of my head, in my unbiased and totally truthful opinion, by the way, that even come close to Gon's character and development. And what's more than that, none of them will probably even make me feel a sliver of the depth and connection and the emotions that I felt watching Gon's descent into pure rage, anger, and chaos. That was until Yuji Itadori. At some point in this video, you probably thought, what the fuck is this man talking about? And I will tell you right now, I think looking at the comparison between Yuji and Gon, we might actually be able to predict a little bit of the future, or at least theorize what JJK might be intending to come next for our hero, Yuji Itadori. You see, Yuji is the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen, and a character I think is set up to possibly follow in the footsteps of Gon, but possibly one of the best rage moments that we have ever seen from this generation of shonen. You see, in a similar fashion to Gon Freecs, Yuji Itadori is also a character whose carefree and innocent nature would bring a smile to anyone's face. However, also, much like Gon Freecs, Yuji Itadori was thrown head first into the world of Jujutsu, and much like Gon's character, again, Yuji's world is very much unyielding, cruel, and unforgiving, and would also chew him up and spit him out at the first opportunity it got. You see, I've talked about this plenty of times. Gege Akutami is a fan of Togashi. He looks up to him and his work, and it's understandable considering the world that Togashi has built over the years. He is a living legend in the world of anime and manga, and will stand atop the industry for years to come as a master of his craft, something I believe that Gege Akutami will also reach eventually, if, in my personal opinion, he hasn't already reached already, because as far as I'm concerned, Shibuya arc, Chimera Ant arc equal. Those two arcs are phenomenal. However, Gege's writing on Yuji is very similar to Gon's development and the way it plays out. Gon starts as an innocent kid who enters a world of hunters and quickly realizes just how serious and how dangerous it can be. And Yuji is also thrust into the world of Jujutsu and again realizes just how dangerous and how serious everything can get very, very quickly. However, what Gege did differently with Yuji was just how fast Yuji was dragged into the depths of despair here. From the moment we meet Yuji, he has already lost his grandpa, and within a couple of weeks after this, is killed by the very cursed spirit he is a vessel for. Gege pulls absolutely zero punches when it comes to making Yuji and his audience suffer, whereas Togashi slowly built up Gon only to rip away everything from him, where Gege constantly dragged Yuji down without giving him any room, or even his audience, to breathe at all. And this is where the cracks in Yuji's nature start to show. Yuji starts to develop a similar self-sacrificial nature in a manner similar to Gon. However, where Gon only ever wanted to get strong no matter the cost, Yuji on the other hand just wants to save as many people as possible no matter the cost, as per his dying grandpa's wish. As Yuji starts to delve deeper into the world of Jujutsu sorcery, he meets a curse named Mahito. And if you've read the anime and the manga, then you know what's coming next. Mahito's very existence changed Yuji's entire mentality on how he sees and views the world, and eventually Yuji starts to develop what the fans can only describe as the cog mentality. Yuji, after finally defeating Mahito, refers to himself as a cog and talks about how his place in the world is to simply defeat as many cases as possible before he dies and takes Sukuna with him. And this mentality only gets more and more severe the further the series continues. Yuji's entire purpose, as far as he's concerned, is to make sure Sukuna dies with him so he can't harm anyone ever again. And after the events of chapter 212, Sukuna throws a massive curveball into Yuji's plan here, and Sukuna taking over Megami's body and putting Yuji into something of a state of shell shock. Sukuna managing to free himself from Yuji sent Yuji into a rage, unlike we've seen anything from Yuji in the series so far. Yuji had absolutely zero concern about his own safety in the aftermath of Sukuna taking over Megami. Yuji seeing his best friend being taken over by the entity of pure malice and evil, something that has done its absolute best to destroy Yuji's mental state, physical well-being, and overall humanity, now standing in front of him, having taken over Megami's body. Someone who Yuji has now fought with tooth and nail to defeat countless spirits since joining the Jujutsu world. This whole event sends Yuji over the edge. Yuji, with absolutely no self-regard for his own safety, marches forward towards Sukuna, fighting with and somehow pushing Sukuna back. And something interesting that was said during this fight was how Sukuna was surprised at Yuji's sudden strength just all of a sudden coming out of seemingly nowhere. A sudden increase in physical strength and durability, allowing him to land blows on Sukuna and even throw him about buildings. And even though Sukuna's cursed energy output was dampened, Yuji was still landing heavy blows here, and there is a lot to say, and I think the fans of Yuji and the series can all agree here. Something weird was going on in this fight, and whether you agree that it was Yuji getting stronger or Sukuna getting weaker or a mixture of the both, you can tell that this fight wasn't gonna go how people expected it to. No one ever expected Yuji to pull up on Sukuna, throwing hands with the King of Curses, and not only landing blows but also drawing blood. Something that caused this whole chain of events to occur was a binding vow. Now, binding vows are something that we've seen many times now in Jujutsu Kaisen, and it refers to a vow made between people or even themselves that they will do a certain thing, and if they do not do that certain thing, in the words of Sukuna, they will be punished. They will possibly lose everything by breaking the binding vow. Something similar in Hunter x Hunter is a Nen contract. This allowed Gon to sacrifice years off of his life as well as his ability to never use Nen again in order to secure some incredible power. But the trade-off for that almost took Gon's life away. Can you see where I'm going with this? Binding vows in Jujutsu Kaisen have been used throughout the series in many different ways, and something that might help me nail this point home even more is Hikari using a binding vow to survive a blast created by Kashimo by sacrificing his left arm. Now, what if Yuji created a binding vow with himself in exchange for something of great value? He gains an extreme amount of power that would allow him to defeat Sukuna. However, for Yuji to gain this sort of power, something of extreme value must be given in order to make the stakes worth it to the narrative. In a similar fashion to Gon, Yuji could wager his life, which lines up with his self-sacrificial nature and his cog mentality here. Yuji trading his life or years of his life in the same way Gon did could be his only way to destroy Sukuna and possibly have a chance at even saving Megami here. Binding vows in Jujutsu Kaisen have been a way for Gege to advance the story in ways that all have trade-offs, and you can look through every binding vow in the series. There has been a trade-off some way, shape or form, and somehow something has happened in response to a binding vow being made. You can call it Deus Ex Machina, but from my perspective, every binding vow in the series has had a trade-off. For a while now, I've said Yuji gaining a random power-up out of the blue like this would be bad for the story in my opinion, and I've often said now that I would slate the series if that happened. However, this thought came to my head after doing my recent video, and it truly feels like it could be the only way for Gege to actually push Yuji to the higher levels of the Jujutsu world in a short time frame. Something similar that we've already seen in the series was Gojo's fight with Toji. Although there was no binding vows created, Gojo was brought as close to death as he possibly could have been, and through this he gained a massive power up, making him the quote-unquote strongest in the verse. But that is my crazy crackpot theory here for the series and what could potentially become of Yuji. I think if this was to happen, it could add some serious stakes to the narrative, and it also fits in line with what JJK said with out of the first years in Gojo, either one survives and the rest die, or they all survive and one dies. But that is everything from me. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of the theory in the comments down below, and as always, catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.